What is force? In physics, force is a fundamental concept that describes an interaction between two objects or a body that causes a change in its motion or shape. It is a vector quantity, which means it has both magnitude and direction. Force can be represented as an arrow, with the length of the arrow indicating the magnitude of the force, and the direction of the arrow showing the force's direction. The formal definition of force is given by Sir Isaac Newton's second law of motion, which states that the force acting on an object is equal to the mass of the object multiplied by its acceleration. Mathematically, it can be expressed as force, F, equals mass, m, times acceleration, a. This is usually written as F equals m times a. In simpler terms, force is what can cause an object to move, accelerate, decelerate, change direction, or deform. For example, when you push a book on a table, you apply a force to the book, and it moves due to that force. Gravity is another fundamental force that acts on objects, pulling them towards the center of the earth. Other forces include electromagnetic forces, friction, tension, and so on. Force is measured in units called newtons, N, in the International System of Units, SI. 1 Newton is defined as the force required to accelerate a 1 kilogram mass at a rate of 1 meter per second squared. Types of force. There are several types of forces in physics, each playing a specific role in various interactions between objects. Some of the most common types of forces include gravity. Gravity is the force that attracts two objects with mass towards each other. It is responsible for keeping objects on the Earth's surface, as well as governing the motion of planets, stars, and other celestial bodies. Electromagnetic force. This force arises between electrically charged particles, electrons and protons, and is responsible for various electromagnetic interactions. It includes forces like electrostatic forces, between stationary charges, and magnetic forces, between moving charges or magnetic objects. Normal force. The normal force is the force exerted by a surface to support the weight of an object resting on it. It acts perpendicular to the surface and prevents objects from falling through it. Frictional force. Friction is the force that opposes the relative motion or attempted motion between two surfaces in contact. It can be static, at rest, kinetic, during motion, or rolling, depending on the situation. Tension force. Tension is a force transmitted through a string, rope, or any flexible connector when it is pulled from opposite ends. It always acts along the length of the rope and is the same magnitude at both ends. Applied force. An applied force is any external force that is exerted on an object by a person or another object. For example, pushing a car or lifting a box are examples of applied forces. Spring force. The force exerted by a compressed or stretched spring is called the spring force or Hooke's force. It follows Hooke's law, which states that the force is directly proportional to the displacement of the spring from its equilibrium position. Buoyant force. This force is experienced by an object submerged in a fluid, liquid or gas. It is an upward force exerted by the fluid and is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the object. Air resistance or drag force. When an object moves through the air, it experiences a resistive force known as air resistance or drag force. It opposes the object's motion and depends on its shape and speed. Nuclear forces. These are the forces that act between subatomic particles, such as protons and neutrons, within an atomic nucleus. They are responsible for holding the nucleus together despite the repulsive electromagnetic forces between protons. These are just a few examples of the various forces that exist in the natural world. Each force has its specific characteristics and effects, and they are crucial in understanding and explaining the behavior of objects in motion or at rest.